Here we have the humerus. Now the humerus is going to be the single bone of the upper arm. It's the only bone found in your upper arm, which means it has to give all the strength and stability to the arm itself. What we're looking at currently is the anterior view of this bone. Now the anterior view, you can notice you have these condyles down here. You can notice you have these rough patches up here, which are going to be the tubercles. But let's look at the posterior view for a second. Gotta turn this around. Now we're looking at the posterior view. You'll notice those condyles aren't as visible. Instead, we have this larger indent, this larger fossa. You can see the head right here. We'll get to that in a second as well. So this is the posterior view of the humerus. Let's start to focus in on this area up here. This is the proximal area of the humerus, the part that makes up the shoulder joint. Now that we've zoomed in a little bit on the proximal end of the humerus, there's a few landmarks to start paying attention to. We're going to have the head of the humerus. Now currently, this is an anterior view. The head is this rounded portion right here. This is the head of the humerus. Now, from the head, we have two different necks. You can see how there's this line going right along here, just below the head. That line is showing the anatomical neck. So that's the anatomical neck, going all the way around to the posterior side and then up and around. So that's the anatomical neck. You then have the surgical neck is found down here, the surgical neck. So anatomical neck, just below the head. This is the head, just below the head. This right down here is going to be the surgical neck. Now, with the head of the humerus, the head will always face medial, because the head is what is going to make your shoulder joint. If you think about it, what does the head articulate with? The head of the humerus articulates with the glenoid fossa of the scapula. We saw that in a previous video. So it's the head of the humerus. It's what articulates and forms your shoulder joint. But then we have these two rough patches you see here. This one right here is a little bit smaller. And this one you can see is much larger, goes much more around the bone. The much larger one, and we're going to pick this up a little bit, you can see the roughness here. This much larger one is called the greater tubercle. While this smaller one right here, that's referred to as the lesser tubercle. And you'll notice right in between there is a groove. That groove is referred to as the intertubercular groove. So the small one here is the lesser tubercle. The much larger one wrapping around is the greater tubercle. And right in between is the intertubercular groove. Now for the next one, we're going to have to kind of zoom back out a little bit. So let me reset here. All right, now that we're reset, you're noticing we're back to that original view. You can see the head is right here up front. So it's the head of the humerus, lesser tubercle, and then the larger one's the greater tubercle. But the next landmark is the deltoid tuberosity. Now the deltoid tuberosity, you may have heard of the deltoid muscle up in your shoulder. The deltoid tuberosity is where that muscle is attaching. It's actually going to be the attachment point for the muscle to the humerus. Right down here, about a third of the way down the bone, down the shaft, is a rough patch. It's more on the lateral side. So we're going from head is medial, this is lateral. So medial side, lateral side. We're going more on the lateral side. About a third of the way down is a rough patch called the deltoid tuberosity. So this little bit of roughness here is the deltoid tuberosity. Now the rest of the landmarks are going to be down here on the other end of the bone. So we're focusing more on the distal end of the bone. So the head was the proximal end. That was closer to the shoulder. Let's refocus and reset on this distal end of the bone down here. Now that we've reset on the distal end of the bone, for orientation purposes, this side over here is medial. This side over here is lateral. So this side that's medial, you're going to have the same side as the head of the actual humerus. So if we pull this down a little bit, you'll notice as we go through it, here's the head. And if we go back up, you'll then notice that we come back to those parts. All right, so the first landmark up is the medial epicondyle. So on the medial side, same side as the head, epi meaning above, condyle is a smooth surface. This is smooth, so to go above that, this right here is the medial epicondyle, which means this over here is the lateral epicondyle. So again, epi above the smooth. This is smooth. So medial epicondyle, same side as the head. Lateral epicondyle, opposite side as the head. We then have the capitulum. This round section right here, it's round and smooth. That is the capitulum. If you break the word down, capitate refers to head. This is round like a head. So capitulum is this section right here. The one just next to it, which is more towards the medial side, this is going to be your trochlea. Because see, it's wider on each edge, more narrow in the middle. So wider on each side, more narrow in the middle. This, from here to here, is your actual trochlea. So the trochlea is medial, capitulum is lateral. We then have 3 different fossa to look into. Now with these 3 fossa, they're going to be small, middle, and large basically. We'll start with the radial fossa. Now the radial fossa is this small little one right here. It's just proximal to the capitulum. So find the nice round capitulum. The radial fossa is the shallow indent just above it on the anterior surface of the bone. This is anterior. We then have the coronoid fossa. Now I know we just talked about coracoid in the previous video of the scapula, but now we're looking at coronoid with an N. And yes, I know coronoid was also back up in the skull. I have no idea why I named them both the same. But this is the coronoid fossa. This shallow indent just proximal to the trochlea. So here's the trochlea. This shallow indent right here, right where the probe's going in, that shallow indent is going to be the coronoid fossa. Watch that spelling, it has an N, coronoid. Which leaves us with one more fossa. But it's on the posterior surface. So I need to reset this. We're going from the anterior, this is anterior, with the capitulum and trochlea visible. This is the posterior view now. Notice, the capitulum, you really can't see, it's underneath here. The trochlea, you've got a little bit of it here. But what we're looking at now, though, is the olecranon fossa. Notice this indent. This indent is the olecranon fossa. So this is the larger of the 3 indents, the larger of the 3 fossa, and that is going to be the olecranon fossa. That is on the posterior side. So the 3 different fossas, and 2 are anterior, 1 is posterior. Now, it's going to become important because each one of these three fossas, the radial fossa, the coronoid fossa, and the olecranon fossa, are all going to have some interactions with the two bones of your forearm, the radius and the ulna. So let me reset this. All right, now that we're reset, what I want to see again, just one more run through. From this view, we're in the anterior view. This is the medial side. Medial side, same side as the head, medial side. We have the, first off, starting right here is capitulum. This is trochlea. We know that this is the medial epicondyle. This is the lateral epicondyle. And then if I kind of stand this up a little bit, you can see this indent right here. That indent is going to be the actual coronoid fossa because it's above or proximal to the trochlea. The capitulum, just proximal, is this indent. It's a shallow little indent here. That shallow little indent, that is the radial fossa. But now turn this over to the posterior view, and you'll notice we have this fossa right here, which is the olecranon fossa. Olecranon fossa. All right, so let's reset this, put it back to the overall view. So now we're back to the overall view, the whole bone. To kind of run through what you can see here real quickly so you have perspective again. The head is up top. The head is the proximal portion of the bone. This is the distal portion of the bone down here. So head, we have anatomical neck just below the head, surgical neck down here. We then have the lesser tubercle, greater tubercle, intertubercular groove. We have the deltoid tuberosity, lateral side shaft of the bone, about a third of the way down. We have the medial epicondyle. Over here, we have the lateral epicondyle. We then have this round portion right here is the capitulum. This is the trochlea. Just proximal above the capitulum here, that is the radial fossa. This then just proximal to the trochlea, this indent right here, is the coronoid fossa. And underneath, the one we can't see is in the posterior side, is the olecranon fossa. So now for the humerus, can we figure out which this is, a right or a left? Sure. We know this is all anterior right now. This is anterior. We know the head must be medial. So the head must be medial, plus the medial epicondyle, which means this is a right humerus. This is a right humerus. So the humerus, the bone and the landmarks.